Humans have been a threat to us and our inhabitants for as long as we have been able to discover. We are fighting multiple crises, such as an economic crisis, a rights crisis, and a climate crisis. The power of feminist research is something that can solve what neoliberalism has put band-aids on. Neoliberalism is market-oriented reform policies that often shift responsibility for mitigating climate change onto individuals through their consumption of technology solutions and ignores the repercussions of the outliers. A feminist lens is an intersectional approach that removes mundane decision-making that is usually present in neoliberal climate governance. The climate crisis is only one example of a crisis that has been expedited with the ignorance of mankind. With the growing amount of these existential crises, one would suppose that there would be a different tactical approach to these problems. Therefore, I strongly believe a feminist intersectional approach needs to become more broadly utilized. In Silent Spring, Rachel Carson provides a plethora of examples of how man is ignoring science and logic and providing simple solutions to one problem, instead of looking at its costly effects. Our book also states that feminist environmentalism provided baseline insights into the interdependence of human life and planet life. It's important to understand these connections and the diminished importance of them through scientific hierarchies. In our textbook, Joni Seeger says that the burden of proof needs to be shifted to the front of the chain of production. Bringing forward the burden of proof when it comes to changes for the climate reduce the risk of harsh chemicals and substances hurting mankind before we can stop it. A perfect example is Rachel Carson's examples about Japanese beetles in the United States. During the fall season of 1959, 27,000 acres of Michigan were heavily dusted with pellets of aldrin. Aldrin is an extremely dangerous chlorinated hydrocarbon. The United States Department of Agriculture showed little evidence as to why drastic measures were taken, and evidence from Walter P. Nickel, one of the best-known naturalists at the time, even stated that there is no direct threat from the Japanese beetles, and their quantities did not pose the level of threat that the government felt they needed to take. The consequence of the 27,000 acres being sprayed, the city of Detroit received a massive number of complaints about dead birds, rabbits, and other small animals dead in the streets. Wildlife being frozen from chemicals like such was an awful consequence. In 2020, we behold the fourth wave of feminism. Modern activists like Greta Thunberg has sparked a movement that directly targets neoliberal approaches to the problem, providing hard evidence of carbon emissions and their growing effects everywhere in the world. She begs the logic of fact and is quoted saying, "Why should we care about our future when no one else is doing that? Why should we bother to learn facts when facts don't matter in society?" Another example of an intersectional approach comes from a policymaker out of Detroit, Rhianna Gunn Wright. She knew the government needed to urgently address the crisis after realizing how the environment shapes a wide range of social justice issues. She says, "You aren't going to solve the problem with just solar panels. People are being poisoned." Gunn Wright continues to bring a holistic approach to the national level and works behind the scenes at New Consensus, which is connecting progressive lawmakers. Her efforts as the group's Green New Deal leader is charged with figuring out the program from the inside out and figuring strategies for the bold climate plan. Feminist research on the climate crisis has shown to contribute to helping solve the crisis by strengthening integrated risk assessments. Its intersectional contribution asks why there is crisis in the first place and who is persistently affected. Your contribution to take action should mean calculating the information you need to try and make a difference. You can also get involved with organizations such as Pathway to Paris that is fighting for our association with the Paris Agreement, or New Consensus, which is continually getting people involved with information about the Green New Deal. An organization like New Consensus also provides proposed solutions for economic stagnation and the racial and rural wealth gaps. Pathway to Paris believes in power of bringing people together through creativity and music, connecting musicians with scientists, leading thinkers, and politicians to create a well-rounded, diverse, and powerful collaboration. Both of these organizations have made it their mission to provide innovative and ambitious solutions for combating global climate change. These are two of thousands of organizations fighting for a similar mission, but starting small and understanding their messages that fighting against neoliberal ideology and trend with the need for intersectional feminist-based research. It's also really easy to take action on an individual level. For example, taking a look at where you buy your groceries or where you buy your clothes. Do you know what your dollar is going to? These questions allow you to understand this intersectional process that organizations all over the world are using to keep our facts and information transparent.